Hello, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to our latest Railbookers webinar. It's fantastic to see so many of you joining us this Tuesday morning. I can see that actually as I speak, we've got people still signing in all the time, actually, which is great news. So what we'll do is we'll just pause for around about another minute or so, just to allow those of you who are still signing in time to get settled down, comfortable, make sure the speakers are turned on so the audio is coming through. And if you were in the middle of finishing off a cup of coffee or something like that, you've got time to finish that off very quickly. So once again, welcome to everyone who's just tuning in. We'll kick things off in round about 1 minute's time. And that's just to allow those of you who are just signing in as I speak, time to get settled down and comfortable. So we'll start in round about another minute. Thank you. Good morning, or good morning once again to those of you who've been tuned in for a while, and hello to everyone who's just tuned in to join us. Welcome to our latest Railbookers webinar. Great to have so many of you here joining us today. So today we're going to be looking at life on board sleeper trains. My name is Matt, and it's my pleasure to be with you on the webinar this morning. So what will we cover in today's presentation? Well, as the title suggests, we're going to be taking a closer look at what life is like traveling by sleeper train in Europe. And we'll look at some great destinations that you can visit traveling by sleeper train too. Just before we start the main part of the webinar, we will have a brief introduction for the benefit of anyone who's new to Railbookers or perhaps hasn't attended one of these webinars before, just to outline who we are and what we do. And we'll also have a brief look at what rail companies are doing across Europe at the current moment to make travelling as safe as it possibly can be. So, as I mentioned, a brief introduction to kick things off with. And first of all, just to explain why travellers love Railbookers and travelling on holiday by train. Well, there's a number of different reasons, really, for that. And first of all, train travellers, many of you will know, I'm sure, really does offer a huge number of bucket list experiences, particularly if you're looking at a special trip to celebrate a special occasion. Now, that could be that you've always wanted to head over to Venice in style on board the famous Orient Express, or perhaps you've always wanted to travel by train coast to coast across the USA, or maybe you just like to visit one or two destinations that you've always wanted to travel to, but for whatever reason, you've never quite got around to it. Whatever it might be, there's plenty of bucket list experiences traveling by train. And train travel also offers unparalleled freedom and flexibility too. The vast majority of the holidays that you'll find on our website and that we'll look at on the webinar today can be done any day of the year, all year round. So really, whenever you'd like to travel. And as many of you will testify too, I'm sure, it's also the most scenic way to travel as well. You really do see a lot more at ground level. The scenery makes the journey very enjoyable, particularly obviously the further you travel as the landscape unfolds and changes in front of you. And it really does make the journey part of the overall holiday experience rather than just a means of getting from A to B. All of the itineraries that we feature are customizable. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, it means that you might like the general idea, but wish you could change it slightly. You might like it to be slightly longer. Maybe you'd like to spend more time in one destination than we have featured. Whatever it might be, there's lots of different ways that you can customize all of the holidays that you see. In pretty much all cases as well, it's a very small deposit to secure your holiday if you're looking at traveling more than 3 months in advance, as obviously at the current moment, that's what most of us are doing, isn't it? So typically a very small deposit just to lock things in, secure the space, and then the remaining balance is payable around about 90 days before you're due to travel. And really the key message is whether you're looking at traveling in 2 days' time, probably not so likely right now, or 2 years' time, our holidays go anytime, any day, anywhere. You also benefit from 24-hour support from our global team, not just here in London, but also our colleagues in Sydney, Australia, Toronto, Canada, and 2 offices in the USA, East and West Coast. Now, here is one of the great handouts that you can download on the webinar today. So if you don't have a copy of this map already and you would like one, feel free to get downloading, and I'll try and give you a reminder as we reach the end of the webinar today. This map, the multicolored lines, all refer to either different rail operators or different types of trains running across some of the main routes in Europe. And one of the confusing things about train travel can be that all of these different operators, they don't always talk to each other, communicate with each other as well as they could do. They certainly don't release all of their trains for booking at the same time, so it can be a little bit confusing. Plus, there's often more than one way of traveling from A to B. So how do you know which is the right one for you? What we aim to do, therefore, is to take all of the mystery and complexity out of things for you. So once you've decided where you'd like to go, we can take all of the mystery and confusion out of things. And one of the ways that we do that is by working directly with all of the main rail operators in Europe, North America, and beyond. So, for example, our good friends and colleagues at Trenitalia, SNCF, Renfe over in Spain, Swiss Railways, Eurostar, where so many of our trips begin, of course, and across the pond with Via Rail and Amtrak too. And what that allows us to do is firstly to have access to the best available fares and prices for you, which is obviously very important. But also that's how we're able to advertise all of the holidays that you see here up to 2 years in advance. And that's really important for several reasons. Obviously at the current moment, because not too many people are looking at traveling imminently, of course. But also if you are celebrating that special occasion that's coming up at a busy time of year, you obviously want to make sure that you can get in early, secure the space. And this means that we're able to secure things with the current prices for all of the train travel. So you're not going to be subject to any price increases that may happen over the next couple of years. We do also have a maximum flexibility offer that I should make everybody aware of too, for those who don't know. For all new reservations, you can change your travel dates or postpone your trip at any point up until 5 days prior to departure. And also for existing reservations, you can reschedule up until 5 days prior to departure without incurring any change fees to do so. We do also have some great limited time offers available too, and you can find out all about these and which holidays are featured by clicking on the special offers tab on the front page of our website, which is railbookers.co.uk. As you can see here, you can save £300 per couple on some great holidays to Switzerland, Scotland and Vienna, £400 per couple heading over to Italy via the Swiss Alps, and £500 per couple heading over to the Italian lakes and Swiss mountains. There's some great holidays available which can be taken at any point in the next 2 years, and all of those special offers, once again, you can find them on our website. Now, a question that we are getting asked at the moment for very obvious reasons is how are rail operators maintaining a safe travel environment? And the answer to that is they're doing it in a number of different ways, really. Firstly, by requiring facial coverings in stations and on trains for all passengers and staff, so pretty much like in the UK. In some cases, they're stopping the sale of food and drink on board trains too. Now, that doesn't mean that people who are traveling at the moment can't bring their own food and drink on board with them, have a picnic, they can, but it means that in certain cases you can't buy it on board. In many cases too, they're changing the seating configuration and seat allocation on board to allow for that all-important social distancing. Already existing cleaning and sanitation measures have been increased, and where possible, they're carrying out contactless ticket control, again, just with the emphasis on distancing wherever possible. Okay, introduction over. So let's look at some great holidays that all include some fantastic sleeper trains, and we'll take a closer look and see what life is like on board. So first up, we'll start off close to home with our Scottish Highlands and the Isle of Skye holiday. This one is 7 days in total. Journey begins and ends in London, and we start off with overnight travel on one of only 2 sleeper trains in the UK, the Caledonian Sleeper, this time heading up to Inverness for a 3-night stay, which includes a day trip out to the Isle of Skye, full day over there, including a trip to Donan Castle. And then we head down to spend 2 nights in Edinburgh before returning back through to London. And this is what life is like on board the Caledonian Sleeper. Now, these train cabins are all pretty new. They actually launched completely brand new trains partway through last year. So they're all very, very new. There are 3 different types of cabins that I should tell you about very quickly. On the right-hand side, this is kind of your regular sleeper cabin. So if anyone hasn't traveled overnight on a train before, this is typically what you'd expect wherever, really all around the world. Really, they're all fairly standard. So you'd have one bed above the other one, as you can see here. So this on this Caledonian Sleeper, this is what they call the classic room. The next category up is called the club room, and the differences between that and the classic room are firstly that you get your own walk-in bathroom and toilet inside the cabin. So that means you don't have to use shared facilities. You also get your breakfast included as part of the cost of the ticket as well, which you can either enjoy in the comfort of your cabin, or you can enjoy in the club lounge on board the train as well. And it's typically a really small increase, relatively speaking, to upgrade from the classic room to the club room. So talking around about an extra kind of £15 per person or so, roughly, most days of the year. So well worth thinking about. And finally, the final category you can see on the top left, and anyone who's traveled by train before, especially if you travel overnight, will see this is something pretty special and also pretty rare. This room category is called the Caledonian Double, and the reason for that, no prizes for guessing, you can see there's a double bed in the middle of the screen, and this is, not quite as rare as hen's teeth, but you don't see them very often, if at all. I can only really think of a handful of examples around the world where you have the option of traveling overnight in such comfort with a really nice comfortable double bed to experience. Now there are only a maximum of 2 or 3 of these per train. So if this is an experience that you like, perhaps celebrating a special occasion, heading up to Scotland, or just like to travel as comfortably as possible, whatever the reason might be, it really is a case of having to recommending to get in there early to secure this, because as I say, there are not many of them and they're very popular. What do you get? Well, apart from the double bed, you get the bathroom and breakfast that you would have in the club room as well, and you also get some extra luxury bathroom products and toiletries as well included that you'll find in the cabin when you board. On board the train as well, we have the club lounge, which is where you can enjoy breakfast, which is included for the club room and Caledonian double sleeper categories, as we saw. And you can also, all sleeping car passengers can enjoy an evening meal as the train heads off and starts to head north up to Scotland. And there's a variety of different local dishes available. Everything's really kind of focused on Scottish food and cuisine, so there's plenty of smoked salmon for those who like that sort of thing. Haggis, tatties and neeps, yes, they're available too. And if you don't fancy a meal, there's a range of Highland whiskies and general alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks. You can relax with a glass of wine or a coffee, whatever it might be, as you head up into the night. And we have some great destinations to visit on this particular holiday as well. So first port of call is Inverness, our largest city in the Scottish Highlands. And we do here include a hop-on, hop-off tour to get you around the city to find your bearings, which also takes you to all of the main places of interest, including the 19th century cathedral and the indoor Victorian market. So lots to see and explore there. Just to the bottom left there, you can see those wonderful painted houses over on the Isle of Skye. And we have a full day trip over to the Isle of Skye, so you get plenty of time to explore and really take in some of the varied landscapes in different parts of the island, ranging from picturesque fishing villages, as you can see here, to some of the rugged coastlines. And you get to take in lots of beautiful views and hopefully see some of the famous local wildlife as well. Top right is Caledonian Castle, which you will visit as part of this particular trip. Caledonian is a small island where three locks converge and come together, so a really picturesque setting, and you have a visit there as part of the day. So it's a full day trip over to Skye, and you get lots of time to see different parts of the island because it's quite a different experience depending where you are, and plenty of time out in those wide open spaces too. And last but not least, we have the Scottish capital, Edinburgh, of course. One of my favourite destinations, I think, to visit, not just in the UK, but in general, I think. I really like the contrast between the medieval old town and the Georgian new town. And one of the things that I always think is quite interesting, and anyone who's been to Edinburgh will probably agree with me, I hope, is that they're on two slightly different levels as well, which is always interesting. There's all these kind of interesting alleyways that link the two, with lots of interesting buildings that you kind of stumble across, and of course lots of great places to visit too. So you can visit the castle, see the Scottish crown jewels, and lots of other really interesting places to visit as well, and all of which is, if not quite on our doorstep, it's not too far away. So we have a great sleeper train journey and some wonderful destinations that we can explore without leaving the UK. Okay, time to start heading further afield now and look at some different options. So for anyone who fancies perhaps a short breakaway, not traveling too far, then we have a city break to Prague, traveling by overnight sleeper train. So here we start off in London with the Eurostar journey over to Paris. That's around about 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. In Paris, it's a straightforward change before taking a direct high-speed TGV Lyria train from Paris to Zurich, just over the 4-hour mark. And then in Zurich, you catch the overnight sleeper train from Zurich all the way through to Prague, arriving the next morning for a 3-night stay where we include a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour. So let's take a closer look at what life is like on board this particular sleeper train. And in fact, the sleeper train on this particular holiday, on this particular journey from Zurich through to Prague, is very similar to, there's a lot of very similar trains actually operated by the same company that will run across Europe. So the facilities that we'll look at here, the sleeper cabins that we'll look at here, won't be the case absolutely everywhere, but they will be the case on an awful lot of the particular journeys that are featured in many of our holidays. So hopefully this will give you a good idea of what life is like on board. So there's different types of accommodation. First up, the example that you can see on the screen right now, this is the couchette. Now this is a perfect option for anyone who perhaps is traveling as part of a family. So they have couchette options for 4 and also for 6. So if you have the 4-berth option, for example, if you are 2 adults and 2 children, if there's 2 younger children, maybe this could be a really nice option to take. You can see that there's 4 beds, 2 on either side, which fold down from the ceiling, and this could be a really nice option for a family breakaway. And as well as the couchettes, we also have overnight sleeper cabins, and these can be for either single use, double use, or also for 3. So on the top left, you can see this is what the sleeper cabin would look like when you board the train. So you'd have the seating accommodation, as you can see there, and then the beds are folded down by one of the sleeping cabin attendants for you for the evening. And as you can see on the top right, with our 2 models there, you have one above the other in the traditional style. Now, there are 2 different types. As I said, these sleeper cabins can be either for 1, 2, or 3. You also have the regular cabin, which is called the economy cabin, and you also have a deluxe variation. What's the difference between the 2? Well, the deluxe cabin has its own private bathroom and toilet within the sleeping cabin once again. whereas the economy cabin just has a wash basin. And if you take just a couple of steps outside the cabin and walk down the corridor, then there will be there's a communal toilets and showers, which are only shared between the 3 or 4 sleeper cabins that will occupy that particular carriage, and they're cleaned very regularly and looked after by the attendants. But if you have the deluxe one, you've got your own cabin, your own shower and bar and toilets, etc., all contained within the cabin for you. Once again, if you'd like the sound of that option, again, it's where you need to move quickly because there's a maximum of 3 of those on any particular trains. There are more of the economy cabins, fewer of the deluxe ones. So if that's what you'd like to go for, the early bird catches the worm once again. What other features do you get when you're traveling on these particular trains? Well, when you board the train, you get a welcome pack inside your sleeper cabin, including towels, toiletries, with soap, slippers, and earplugs too. You also get a welcome drink, which can either be a glass of something fizzy, if you like, or a soft drink. And you can also order a wake-up call, so you can get woken up at whatever time you prefer in the morning. And you'll be served light continental breakfast, as you can see on the top left. So some pastries, tea, coffee, yogurt, and so on. And you can also take advantage of room service during the evening as well. So if you fancy a drink or tea or coffee, you can order those to your sleeper cabin as well. On this particular train, there isn't a full-scale restaurant car, so it's always worth having a meal before you board the train. And what a great destination to arrive in, of course, Prague. So much history, so much to explore, lots and lots to see and do. One of the nice things I think about the hop-on, hop-off bus tour that we have included in this particular holiday is that there are some destinations where this is even more of a good idea than others, and I think Prague definitely fits the bill because anyone who's been there will know that Prague is in 2 parts, kind of bisected by the Vltava river, which passes through the middle. So on the top left, you can see the old town area. The castle district is on the left-hand side of the river, and then the old town is to the right-hand side. So they are on 2 separate parts. The advantage of the hop-on, hop-off bus tour is obviously that it takes you all the way around and then drops you off at whichever places you fancy visiting. So as well as taking you to all the main places of interest, it means you don't need to worry about taxis or public transport or anything like that as well. My favourite part of the city, I think, would probably be the Old Town Square, where there's a really beautiful building called the Astronomical Clock, which many of you who've been to Prague will know, I'm sure. And every time the clock chimes, which I'm just trying to remember if it's every half an hour, every quarter, it might even be every quarter of an hour actually. These wonderful hand-carved little figures come out and reenact this little scene, and then after that's finished, you'll find that everyone normally gathers around the base of the clock waiting for it to chime once again so they can see if it's going to be the same or if it's going to feature different figures and a different scene being reenacted the next time. So really interesting destination to visit, and very easy to visit by sleeper train as well. If we travel this way, you can leave the UK and then wake up in Prague the next morning after a comfortable overnight journey, and then have a great destination to explore at the end of it. Time to head north. Now we're heading up for our Northern Lights holiday. So on this particular trip, we start and finish in Oslo. So we begin with 2 nights in Oslo, and then we head up first of all by daytime train up to Trondheim, which is about a 6.5-hour journey. Now it's a really scenic journey, this one as well, known as the Dovre Railway, and it passes through the Gudbrandsdalen Valley and across the Dovrefjell mountain range. You get to see lots and lots of mountains, forests, lakes, beautiful scenery. And then you have an overnight stay in Trondheim, and you can explore Trondheim the next day too, before taking an overnight sleeper train, which we'll look at in a second, crossing the Arctic Circle as you travel overnight, and arriving into the town of Bodo, where you spend 2 nights, and you do have an evening Northern Lights tour, where hopefully you get to experience the Aurora Borealis in all of its glory, before traveling back, this time by daytime train from Bodo through to Trondheim, which is the Nordland Railway. As I mentioned, it crosses the Arctic Circle as you travel, so you've got, again, wonderful scenery here, forests, mountains and fjords. And this is why with these two particular train journeys, we have travel by sleeper in one direction and by daytime in the other on this holiday, because it's great to experience the sleeper train journeys, but also the scenery that you do pass through is absolutely beautiful. So we include travel one way by day, one way by night. So when you travel by day back from Bodo through to Trondheim, you then connect with an overnight sleeper from Trondheim back to Oslo, wake up the next morning in Oslo, and you have another night there, so more time to explore the Norwegian capital, and before heading home the next day. And here is a little look at what life is like on board the sleeper trains in Norway. So here we've got the regular sleeper cabin style, which you're probably becoming accustomed to by now. Very, very comfortable indeed. And these can either be for single use or for couples. You can have them for either one or two people. This time they do have a restaurant car on board as well, so you no need to, in fact it's not really possible to pre-book, but you can settle down in the evening, enjoy a meal or a drink as the train heads off into the Norwegian night. So a very, very comfortable, very enjoyable experience. Very friendly staff on board as well, who look after everything for you and assemble the cabin up ready for the evening, and also fold the beds away for you the following morning as well. And again, you can ask for the wake-up calls and so on, as we saw on the night jet train over to Prague as well. So a really, really comfortable experience, and some great scenery we mentioned on both of these journeys that obviously you'll be able to see in the morning as well as you wake up, and you'll be heading through some of those wonderful forests and alpine scenery. Really, really beautiful scenery on offer on both of these journeys. And here are some of the destinations that you'll be visiting as part of this particular trip. So top left we have Trondheim, which is a university town actually as well, which has got the northernmost medieval cathedral in the world. So quite a few interesting museums there as well, and places of interest to explore. And built located on the Trondheim fjord, so beautiful picturesque setting. And then next, heading clockwise with the multicolored buildings, we visit the town of Bodo, just north of the Arctic Circle. Beautiful harbor area, as you can see here, with those multicolored buildings, and a really picturesque mountain backdrop as well. So you're really, you're pretty far north at this point. So absolutely beautiful setting. And this, of course, is from where you'll take the trip to hopefully experience the northern lights, the aurora borealis, as you can see on the bottom left. One of the natural wonders of the world, and an incredibly memorable experience. Beautiful, beautiful experience there. And Bodo is one of the best places to be able to experience that from. And last but no means least, we have the skyline of Oslo, where we have 2 nights at the start of the trip and then 1 night at the end, as well as this wonderful harbour area. There's also a really interesting old town, lots of museums, including the Viking Museum in Oslo, well worth a visit, but plenty to see and do. And I think you have a great combination here on this particular holiday of the sleeper train experience, some wonderful scenery that you'll see from the train journeys, and some beautiful destinations that you visit. You really do feel out in although you're in towns, you've got some of those wide open spaces, you're right out by the sea, the harbour areas, and just some of that wonderful fresh Scandinavian air. So really, really interesting trip to do. And of course, the aurora borealis as well. So lots and lots of great inclusions on this particular trip. Okay, time for something slightly different. A bit more of a glamorous sleeper train, this one. So we'll look at one of the many trips we have featuring the Venice-Simplon-Orient Express, this time heading over to Verona. So if you do have a special occasion coming up in the not too distant future that you'd like to celebrate in style with a special trip, something like this could fit the bill. So on this particular holiday, the journey begins with 1 night on board the famous Venice-Simplon-Orient Express and a private twin cabin. So journey begins in London, heads via Paris through France into Switzerland, before arriving into, in this case, Verona for a 3-night stay. There are also obviously lots of holidays that we have to Venice as well, but this time we're going to look at something slightly different. We're going to look at Verona this time. So we have a 3-night stay in Verona, and then after that you return to London by taking the train from Verona to Turin, having an afternoon to explore Turin before next day heading back with a direct train from Turin through to Paris, passing through the French Alps, actually going close to many of the ski resorts around there like Chambéry, and then traveling through France over to Paris, and then taking a Eurostar back home from Paris through to London. And for anyone who's always wanted to know what it's like on board, this is a view of the Venice-Simplon-Orient Express and a snapshot of what life is like on board. On the right-hand side, this is the bar car, which is the social hub of the train. This is where people will gather both pre and post dinner. There's a pianist who plays. Obviously, you can relax with a drink and perhaps just take in the wonderful setting, or maybe get to know some of your fellow passengers as well. During the evenings, everybody gets dressed up for dinner, so there is a real sense of everybody making a special effort to make it a memorable occasion for absolutely everybody on board. And it really is like traveling back in time. That's the best way, I think, of describing it. It really does harken back to the golden age of travel, I think, in so many ways. You've obviously got the wonderful Art Deco setting, the uniform staff, the wonderful food and restaurant cars as well. There are 3 restaurant cars on board, and top left you can see an example of some of the dishes that are available. Looks like some very tasty lobster on this particular occasion. And you certainly get plenty of to eat and drink on board the train. In fact, sometimes as the Orient Express travels through the countryside, when it reaches a station, you might see them take on board a food delivery, because all the meals, of course, are cooked and prepared freshly on board the train. And bottom left, you'll see one of the Orient Express sleeper cabins as well. So you'll see again, we've got the period settings, the original furnished cabins, and just at the bottom center of the screen, we've got the Orient Express slippers, of course, as well, which I always like to point those out for anyone who misses them at the bottom of the screen there. But it really, as I say, it does feel like traveling back in time. It is a very, very memorable experience, and it's a little bit of a cliche to say this, I suppose, but I always think that sometimes cliches are cliches because they're true. It's a sort of trip that really does provide memories that will last a lifetime. So if you're lucky enough to be able to experience this particular trip, it really is something you'll be able to remember and treasure forever. And Verona is one of the destinations that you can visit by Orient Express, and the one we're looking at today. Really interesting destination to visit, and one of the things I really like about it is it's really, really, really walkable. It's so easy to explore on foot. Lots to see and do. Of course, if you do fancy visiting the famous balcony and imagining your Juliet or Romeo, then you can indulge in that. And there's also the famous amphitheatre, of course, which dates back from 1 AD. Lots of other interesting places to see and visit as well, and of course some great Italian food and drink to enjoy as well. But one of my favorite destinations, we often take a look at Venice as in combination with the Orient Express, which of course is the most famous destination. But if you've been over to Venice perhaps before and you'd like to try something new, then Verona is definitely well worth a visit if you haven't been over there before. Lots and lots to see and do. And we did mention earlier about customizing holidays, didn't we? So if you would like to visit both and head over to both Verona and Venice, again, that's really easy to do. All you need to do is to let us know. And time for something slightly different once again. This one is a new holiday that we've only just launched in the last couple of weeks. So time to take a closer look at what's involved here, heading over to Rome, Venice and Vienna. Slightly longer one this time, at 10 days in duration. So how does this one work? Well, once again, starting off from London, we head first of all to Paris. So just a reminder, that's around about 2 hours and 20 minutes or so by Eurostar, of course. Straightforward changeover in Paris before taking a direct TGV Lyria train to Lausanne on the shores of Lake Geneva. and that's around about a 3.5, 40-minute journey or so. We have an overnight stay in Lausanne, and then the next day, a really scenic train journey through the Simplon Pass. Really great mountainside alpine views. You travel along Lake Geneva for a little part of the journey, have glimpses of Lake Maggiore too, before heading down eventually to Rome, the Italian capital, of course, for a 2-night stay. Then we head up to Venice for a 2-night stay, including a half-day tour of the islands of Murano and Burano. Very, very pretty indeed. And then this is where the first of the sleeper trains comes in. So you'll travel overnight from Venice through to Vienna. So that means that after your 2-night stay in Venice, you basically get pretty much a full day there as well, before you leave in the evening before heading over to Vienna. 2 nights to explore the Austrian capital, including a 48-hour Vienna pass, which gets you into all of the main museums, the Schönbrunn Palace, the former residence of the Habsburgs, of course. Lots and lots included there. Really good value. Includes pretty much entrance to pretty much everything you're going to want to see and do in Vienna. And then again, you get pretty much a third day, because you're waiting then for the overnight sleeper in the evening, which will either head back to Cologne or Brussels. It changes depending on the day of the week. Sometimes it will go all the way directly through to Brussels, other times it will go to Cologne, and then straightforward travel back on through to London. And on both of these occasions, the sleeper train that you would travel on from both Venice to Vienna and Vienna back to either Cologne or Brussels is exactly the same type of train as the one we looked at on the second holiday through from Zurich through to Prague. So everything that we looked at there, if you remember, I said it will operate in a number of different places around Europe, a number of different routes and journeys, covers both of these two as well. So all of the facilities exactly the same as the one that we previously looked at. And in the little loop that we take on this particular holiday, again, some beautiful destinations to explore as well. So top left, we've got Lausanne on the shores of Lake Geneva. Beautiful, beautiful setting, home of the Olympic Museum, amongst other things. Bottom left, we've got the multicolored houses over in Burano, one of the islands just off Venice, which we include in the half-day tour over there. So much to see and do in Venice. It really is a destination unlike any other, with the wonderful canals and just the atmosphere that really is different to pretty much anywhere else, I think. Bottom right, we've got Vienna, of course, with some of those beautiful buildings to see and explore around the Ringstrasse in the center of Vienna. And of course, for anyone who's not been to Vienna before, or indeed anyone who has been to Vienna before, let's face it, if you do like chocolate, you must make sure that you try some of the famous Sacca torta, the local delicacy over there. It's not particularly good for you, but it's very, very tasty and very, very Moorish. So make sure you indulge with some of that. And then top right, of course, we have Rome, the Eternal City. So much to see and do. So many great places of interest. You've got the Vatican, of course, the Colosseum, the Forum. So many great places to see and explore. So I think, it's a really nice holiday, this one. There's so much to see, so much to do. Some eternally, enduringly popular destinations, Venice, Vienna, Rome. And the 2 sleeper journeys that we have included really help make the most of these cities where there's so much to see and do, because, as I say, a 2-night stay becomes basically a 3-day stay very, very easily with the benefit of the sleeper trains. Then you wake up the next morning afresh to visit the next destination. And we've got a few more suggestions for you as well. There's lots of different options, obviously, that you can do by sleeper train. If you'd like to find out more, we actually have a whole page on our website with links to some of our most popular holidays by sleeper train, where you'll find all of these and many, many more too. Over on the left-hand side, we've got another trip in the UK, London, Edinburgh and York. 7-day trip, once again, heading up with the Caledonian Sleeper. In the middle of the screen, we've got the overnight train to Venice. This one starts off in London, heads through Brussels, and then finally into Munich, where you take an overnight sleeper train and arrive in Venice the following morning. So I can leave London and wake up in Venice the next morning to explore all that the islands have to offer. And on the right hand side, we have a city break to Budapest as well, which pretty much follows exactly the same type of route. So this time heading over to Munich and then heading over, waking up in Budapest the following morning too. So lots of great combinations, lots of different cities available, and lots of great ways of exploring the UK and the rest of Europe by sleeper train. And of course, we love to hear from you. So we do have on these webinars the questions box that is available, but as well as questions, of course, we always love it if you tell us where you're thinking about traveling to for your next trip, whatever that might be, whether it's next year, the year after. Why not take the opportunity and let us know? If you're looking for any advice as well, any combinations that you can try or any other sleeper train experiences that you might be able to do to any of these destinations, then feel free to let us know that as well. If you'd like any tips and tricks, we're happy to share those with you. And offer some suggestions. But equally, if you already know what it is you'd like to go, when you'd like to go, and you just fancy sharing the good news, then please do let us know that as well. It's always nice to have things to look forward to, I think, isn't it? Particularly, let's face it, in the current year. So if you do already have something in mind, maybe you've already got something booked, then feel free to let us know. Some upcoming dates for your diary. Now we do have some more webinars coming up for the rest of this month. So 13th of October, we'll be looking at the imperial cities, really well connected by train. So looking at Berlin, Vienna, Prague, and more. And then on the 20th of October, we'll be taking a closer look at Italy by train with our top 5 holidays there. And finishing up closer to home on the 27th of October, we'll be looking at some of our Scottish itineraries. So Scotland with Railbookers follows on the 27th of October. So we are almost at the end of the webinar. I did say that I would remind you if you want to download any of the downloads, including the map of Europe, and you have not yet done so. Now is the time. The time is almost upon us. So make sure that you take a moment to do that if you haven't done so already. But before we finish things off, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's been submitting questions. Actually, wow, there's been an awful lot coming through in the course of the webinar. So thank you very much to everyone who submitted those. Now, as there are quite a lot of them, I definitely won't be able to get around to answering them all, unfortunately, but don't despair, because for everyone who submitted a question, one of the team, if I don't manage to pick yours today, one of the team will reach out to you over the next day or so just to answer that question, make sure you've got everything that you need. So we will answer every single one. Okay, we've got some great questions here. I've got a question from Tim. Hello there, Tim. Thanks for joining us today. And Tim's question is, are hotels always included in the price? So the answer to that one, Tim, is yes, they are. Every holiday you'll see is inclusive of all of the travel and hotels that are featured. On each one, if you were to find the holiday on our website, Tim, you'd see that there is a particular hotel included in each destination, which obviously the price is based on. And we do also, though, have a range of different hotels that we're able to feature. So we work with hotels from 3-star through to 5. So, for example, if the holiday is based on a 4-star hotel, and let's say you would like something special, you'd rather stay in a 5-star hotel, that's no problem at all. You just need to let us know, and we can change that for you. Equally, if you're happy with the 3-star, that's fine too. Again, all you need to do is let us know exactly what you'd like. All of the hotels we work with are all central. They're all easily accessible from the main train stations. So we've got 3, 4, and 5-star options, varying from the more traditional and more contemporary. And in the larger cities like Rome, for example, we've got hotels in different locations as well. So if you want to be, for example, closer to the Spanish Steps of the Trevi Fountain, again, that's fine. You just need to let us know where it is you'd like to stay, and we'll be able to find an option for you. Okay, got lots of other ones. Let's see if we can just do a couple quick. A question from Bina, I think. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hello there, Bina. Hope you're safe and well. Saying, sorry, I missed the beginning. Would I be able to get hold of the rest of the presentation? Yes, we will. Just for everyone who's joined us today and registered and signed up, we will send you a recorded version of this as well. So if you have missed any of it, that's no problem. We will be able to send everybody a link to that over. Got a couple of people asking about the handouts and be able to download those. A few different people mentioning that. again, if you've mentioned that, we'll send you a link to those handouts for anyone who's having a little bit of difficulty downloading them. Fantastic. I've got a question from Lynn, who's asking us, can we clarify that we can book the cabins, the bunk beds with ensuite facilities on a sleep in Scotland? Yes, indeed, Lynn. There's 3 different types of cabins, as we mentioned, 2 of which have ensuite facilities. One's got the double bed and one has the bunk beds, the club room. Yes, we can book both of those, and it's just a really small amount to upgrade from the regular cabin to the club room with the ensuite facilities. So yes, we can do all of those for you. I got more people asking for downloads. Question from Gail. Yes, we'll be happy to send those over to you. No problem at all. And lots and lots more. So as I say, it's great to see so many coming through. So thanks so much for everyone for sending them through. Unfortunately, just not going to be able to get through them all, but let's just see if we can pick one more before we wrap things off. Got more people asking for the downloads, which is fantastic. And for the link to watch again, absolutely, we'll make sure we get all of those done for you. Question from David. Hello there, David. And David's question is, I've not taken the train over to Europe before at all. How much luggage can you take with you? So a really great question. So if there's no flights involved, which is the case for the majority of these holidays, of course, the short answer, David, is you can pretty much take as much luggage with you as you can carry. The official guidance is that you can take 2 items of luggage per person and 1 item of hand luggage. And to be honest, you can't, well, I probably couldn't carry too much more than that. I don't know about you. So really, as long as you can carry it and you're happy looking after it, you can take as much as you want. The other good news with that is that nobody's really going to weigh it, unlike at the airport. So if you are planning on indulging in some serious retail therapy while you're at your destination, stocking up on presents or souvenirs for family, friends, yourself, etc., whoever it might be, then go ahead and feel free, because no one's going to weigh your luggage when you come back, and there won't be any excess baggage charges or anything nasty like that waiting for you on the return journey. And last but not least, if you do fancy having a picnic on any of these journeys, you can take food and drink with you. Only on the Eurostar there are a few guidelines about alcohol and how much you can take with you, but otherwise, if you want to take picnic lunch, etc., whilst heading through wherever it might be and enjoying some of that wonderful scenery, sounds very civilized to me, then that's definitely something you can do. So lots and lots of great advantages to traveling by train there, of course. Questions still coming in. Thank you so much to all of you for doing that. As I mentioned, I know I haven't been able to get around to all of them, but we will have the team reach out to each and every one to make sure that they are all answered, and we will get in touch with each and every one of you. So thank you so much for sending all your questions through. And thank you also to those of you who've been sending through ideas about where you'd like to travel to next and what's next in store for your next holiday, whenever that might be. It's been really great to have the pleasure of so many of your company this Tuesday morning. I'd just like to sign off by saying that, most importantly, of course, I hope you're all safe and well. That really is the most important thing right now. So please do look after yourselves. Thanks so much for joining us on the webinar this morning. I hope you found it interesting and informative. And if you weren't sure on where to head to next on your next holiday, whenever that might be, then hopefully it's given you some food for thought and perhaps some inspiration on this Tuesday morning. So thanks once again for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day. Look after yourselves, and who knows, perhaps we'll have the pleasure of your company on another webinar in the not too distant future. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day.